Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Mrs. Mummy PhD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Michelle Gibbs, and I am passionate about helping scholarly mamas like you navigate your journeys with purpose so you can achieve your life and academic goals without sacrificing what matters. The reality is that scholarly mama life is multidimensional. We're scholars, yes, but we're also mothers, wives, and so much more with whole lives outside of academia. So how do we successfully navigate all this? Well, first, we need the space to embrace this unique blend. Only then can we begin the important work of becoming purposefully whole. And part of my own purposeful work is to create a space for us as scholarly mamas to grow, to reflect, and to become everything that we were meant to be. So, mama, are you in? Fabulous. Let's begin. These are our journeys of becoming. Mama, I don't know about you, but for me, 2023 was such a roller coaster of a year. It's a year that is the first in a long time that I can say changed my life forever. Hey, Mama, in today's episode, I want to share with you the huge wins and the hard lessons that 2023 gave me. And I want to share with you how it's changed me, how it's changed my life beyond recognition. Okay, so first I'll share the huge wins. I think it's kind of a nice way to kind of sidestep into this episode. I'll share the wins from 2023, and then I'll share the hard lessons, the challenges, the hard stuff from 2023. Okay, so first and foremost, one of my huge wins from 2023 that has changed my life forever is that I submitted my thesis back in May, and then I successfully passed my Viva in August and didn't have any compulsory amendments. And so I became Dr. Michelle Gibbs as of the 1st of October. So that for me was a huge win because I had been working on my PhD for such a long time. And to finally reach the end of that journey, to finally not only be proud of the work that I've done, but also for that to be recognized, for that to be seen, it just felt so good. And I am so happy to have just makes me so emotional just even saying it out loud because such a hard journey. It was so hard, but I'm so proud, so incredibly proud of the fact that I was able to see it through to the end. And yeah, and I think for me, it's not even just remembering the day of my Viva, just remembering the moment, remembering the feeling. I can remember every single thing about that day. It's forever ingrained in my memory now, I think. And just remembering my kids coming back home because their dad had kept them away from home for the day. He took them out to see a movie and things. And just them coming back home and me being able to share that news with them. Oh my goodness. That goes down as one of the most rewarding moments ever for me to be able to say to them, I did it. Mummy did it. And it's over. That feeling. And my kids just hugging me and just being so proud. So if you haven't listened to episodes 6, which is the one I talk about submitting the thesis, episodes 24 and 25, where I talk about how to nail your PhD Viva. I share all the details about the experience, what it meant for me, what it felt like, what it was like, and just the feeling is just indescribable, honestly. And so that was probably top of the list. 8.5 years of hard work and juggling PhD life and real life at home finally came to a climax, and it just felt so good to be able to say that I did it. So 2023 gave me that. It was a huge, huge win for me for 2023. Okay. Following on from that, I did mention a couple of episodes ago that I had some really exciting things happening. And one of the things that came out of my PhD Viva and the whole experience of that was being invited to speak at an international conference in my field. So I am incredibly excited about this. I thought it was going to be a poster presentation, but it's going to be an oral presentation. I'm really, really excited about it. And I get to share my work. I get to disseminate my work. I get to mingle and network with members of my profession from all around the world. And I am just incredibly grateful that they have selected my work as one of the oral presentations. I am so, so excited. So that's going to be happening next year, 2024. But I was informed about it in 2023. And I think this is kind of one of those times where you realize that when you are purposeful, when you are intentional about what you are doing, when you're doing things that align with your goals and who you are, opportunities will just flow to you. And I am so grateful for that opportunity. I'm looking forward to it. Nervously, but I am looking forward to it. And so, yeah, that's going to be happening in 2024. So that was another huge win for me in 2023 because I've never given an oral presentation at a conference before. And yeah, that was just a really nice culmination to my PhD journey. Okay, so the next huge win for me from 2023 was turning 40. And I call it a huge win because for me, every moment of this life is a gift, right? There are so many people out there who never got to experience this. I mentioned in a couple episodes ago that my husband's dad, we sadly lost him quite a few years ago. And, he hasn't been able to be here to see his son turn 40, to see us get married and have kids and all the things that have happened since his passing. And of course, we've lost others. I'll talk about that a little bit more when I get to the hard lessons. But for me, I feel like, you cannot take life for granted. And sometimes we need these reminders of how precious life really is. And for me to have been able to celebrate my 40th birthday was just a blessing to be here, to be with my family, to be with my kids and my husband, and to really just enjoy the time that we have together right now in this moment. And when I celebrated my 40th birthday, even though it was just on the cusp of submitting my thesis, I could have been really stressed out. I could have been just thinking about the thesis and stressed with that. And I just made the intentional decision that I was just going to live in this moment. I was just going to cherish this moment of turning 40 and just focus on all the things I'm grateful for and just embrace the fact that this was a special moment. This was, something to be cherished and enjoyed, and not to be stressed about things that, one, I don't have any control over, and two, why would I allow the stress of, even if it's submitting a thesis, why would I allow the stress of that to take away from an opportunity to build memories with my family? And that's what I did. And I just really enjoyed my 40th birthday and, just so excited and so grateful to have turned 40. So that was another huge win from 2023. One of the other things that was a huge win for me in 2023 was taking a solo trip to New York and spending some quality time with my mum. That was so incredibly special. It was actually my husband's idea, to be honest, for me to do this as a way to celebrate my achievement of my PhD and, just have a week for myself. It did require lots of planning on both of our parts, but it was his idea. And I thought, what a beautiful gift. What a beautiful gift to be able to travel for the first time by myself. Not the first time traveling by myself, but the first time traveling by myself for a week away from my boys, as a mama, right? And that made me appreciate, of course, my husband. He's amazing because he held things down at home while I was in New York living my best life. But allowing me to refocus myself, because as a mama, you get really caught up in serving the kids and doing all the things and chauffeuring this one to this activity and that activity and taking this one to school and that one to school and just taking some time for myself. It felt really strange, to be honest, because up until that point, all of our holidays were as a family. You know, we didn't really take solo trips. My husband had to take a couple of solo trips to various things, funerals and various things. I actually did the same as well. I had to take a few solo trips as well, but never as a mama for an entire week. So this was the first time and it felt incredibly amazing. It was so nice to be able to just really spend time with my mom. My mom does live in New York, if you're wondering. And so it was nice to go there and spend some time with her. She'd recently had surgery, so that was quite nice as well because we didn't do too much because it wasn't meant to be a tiring trip, but we were able to spend some time together, celebrate together, go out together and, and do various things. So that was really amazing. And yeah, so that was another thing that made my 2023 year quite memorable. So nice to take that solo trip. So nice to be able to celebrate my PhD in New York with my mom. And I'm so full of gratitude for my husband for making that possible. Okay, so another huge win for me in 2023 was that in April of 2023, I launched my podcast. This podcast that you are listening to right now was launched this year in 2023. And I am so incredibly proud of myself for doing this because I'd wanted to do this a long time ago and just never did it. Lots of limiting beliefs, lots of fears holding me back from doing this. And when you take a moment, sometimes you've got big dreams, big goals, and you take a moment to realize that the fears are holding you back are nothing but thoughts. They're just negative, limiting thoughts that are holding you back from doing something that is purposeful, from doing something that could help other people, from doing something that you cannot forget about. You cannot get it out of your mind. It's something that's on your mind all the time. You need to do this thing and you keep putting it off because you are worried about a myriad of things that don't matter. And when you can block out that noise and actually really focus on the purpose of what you need to be doing, on the purpose of what you're seeking to do, then you quiet those limiting beliefs. You quiet that noise and you can proceed with purpose. And for me, that's exactly what I did. I launched my podcast. I pushed myself right outside of my comfort zone and I did it. And I have been consistent with it, even through thesis submission, even through Viva preparation. I have been consistent with my podcast and I'm very, very proud of that because this for me is just the most amazing opportunity to connect with you, to be able to share my experiences with you, to be able to just connect on a deeper level. And I am so grateful that you have chosen to download this podcast, to listen to this podcast regularly. And my only request is that you share this podcast with everybody you know. You share this podcast with anyone you think would benefit from the content within it. Next year, I hope to have more guests on this show. So I'd love to have some other mamas who have completed their PhDs. Ideally, I've got a few people in mind already and a few people who've agreed to come on. So I'm looking forward to recording those interview-based episodes next year. And not only people who have completed PhDs, I love to hear from people who I think could offer value to the listeners of this show, value to you and to help and enhance your life in one way or another. So there may be guests on this show who are not necessarily scholarly mamas, but they offer their talents, their experiences, their wisdom that we as scholarly mamas can incorporate into our daily lives, and it can be of use and of value to us as well. So I am looking forward to growing the show next year, to having other people on who can enhance this journey in one way or another for you, for me, for all of us. And so, yeah, launching my podcast was another huge win that has changed my life forever. Part of my identity is now as a podcaster, which is incredible. The thought that I didn't even, want to be putting myself out there. And now I get so excited to record these episodes, to listen to these episodes. I am so incredibly excited. So yeah, launching the podcast was an absolute huge win. Okay, so the next huge win from 2023 for me was signing my first coaching client. And that was absolutely amazing. I am so incredibly happy to have done that. This was the year that I realized that I could help other people, no matter how hard and challenging my journey was. The fact that I was able to not just survive it, but thrive on it, despite the fact that on the outside, it looked like there were lots of potential barriers to me being able to see this journey through. And the fact that I have been able to do that is just a testimony of faith, tenacity, hard work, and just believing that all things are possible. I feel like that experience should never be wasted. And there's so many people out there who are feeling exactly how I felt, overwhelmed, burdened by the juggle struggle, and just want a different way of approaching this journey. They just want to see not just other people who've done it, but how they can do it themselves. And for me, being able to help people on a one-to-one level as a mentor, as a coach, was just incredible. The fact that I was able to do that. And so yeah, it's been a really nice experience to be hearing those individual stories and just helping people work through the challenges that they are experiencing on their journey. I think has been incredible. So that has been a huge win for me, being able to test out the waters in terms of coaching to see what that feels like, how it felt for me, how it felt for them, and just really enjoying that experience of helping and serving other people. It was just incredibly amazing. And so the next huge win for me was all of the incredible memories that my family and I were able to create together. We were able to take the boys to various experiences throughout the year, and each of those little experiences, there weren't expensive things that we did, but just little things, and just really grounding ourselves in what matters. I think that's the importance for me of creating these wonderful memories, because remember, little moments become incredible memories for us. And this is the opportunity we have. We don't know if we're going to be here tomorrow. We don't know what's going to happen to us next week. We do not know the future. We cannot predict the future. We can only live in the present. We can plan for the future, but there are no guarantees, right? And so for me, the reality of that has been super, super real this year. And I think I'll talk a little bit more about that when I get to the hard lessons. But the reality of that has been super, super real for me this year. The importance of really grounding myself in the present. I have the tendency to be thinking ahead quite a lot. And I think just grounding myself in the present, remembering what matters, really focusing on that and reducing my life and my activities and my actions to the things that are essential for joy, happiness, just living a good life. I think for me, it comes down to that. And this year I've read some pretty amazing books that have truly changed my life forever. These include titles such as The Good Life, which was such a timely, good reminder in many ways of the power and the importance of relationships being the key to happiness and the key to a happy life. Other books for me that have been, life-changing really have been things like Essentialism, Effortless, The Good Life, which I mentioned, and a few other books. And I feel like this year has been the implementation of those things for me. Being able to say, actually, everyone's focusing on all this other stuff. But for me, I am focusing on what matters. And the fact that I did that, I mean, I've been on a journey for a while now of this kind of self-discovery and really opening my eyes to my life and what matters and what I want out of life. But I think after what we've been through this year, it kind of came full-fledged back again and, reminded me of the importance of stripping things back down to the basics and focusing on what matters. It doesn't mean that we don't have goals. It doesn't mean that we can't achieve things, but not at the expense of what really matters to us. That is absolutely not worth it. If you're pursuing something and it's taken away from you physically, mentally, emotionally, then that is not worth it, So yeah, it was really nice to be able to create those wonderful memories with the boys and with my husband, Kevin, and just being able to ground ourselves in that, I think has been just a life-changing experience for me. And I will never be the same after this year, because of what we've been through at the beginning of the year. It's really made me remember what matters, what really, really matters at the end of the day. Okay, so now that I've kind of talked through some of the huge wins, I haven't got time to go through all of my huge wins, but those are the major, major ones. Now that I've had a chance to talk through those, now I want to go on to the hard lessons. This is what made 2023 a roller coaster of a year for me. This is the reason I say that 2023 has changed me forever, has changed my life forever. And it's because of these hard lessons, which really give me the clarity that I needed to move forward. Okay, so the first one was the loss of our dear friend Ty. Actually, on the day that you will listen to this episode was actually the day that our dear friend went into hospital after traveling to attend a wedding and being absolutely fine, enjoying time with his family, taking pre-Christmas photos with his family, his wife and his 2 kids. He then went into hospital last year on this day. And for those of you who've been following me, you know that he eventually passed away on the 6th of January of 2023. But on this day a year ago, 18th of December, 2022, he went into hospital and then it all kind of went downhill from there. Unexpected diagnosis, and before you know it, he was in surgery, and then before you know that, he was gone. He was 40 years old with 2 young kids under 5. He was one of my husband's closest friends. They grew up together. We would talk to him, oh my goodness, sometimes daily. We were that close. He was our best man at our wedding. My husband was his best man. We were like family. And to have to say goodbye to him over video call was the hardest thing. And to know that his kids will never get to hug him again. His family cannot see him, touch him, embrace him. It just seems so unfair because he was such a good person. He was such a good person. It was so hard. It was so hard to lose him because he was so close, and he's been in my husband's life since they were kids, and for him to be gone just doesn't feel real. It actually feels surreal. Even though we lived in different countries, he was such a good friend to my husband. He was always there. They were always there for each other, really. And to lose him just kind of left a hole. So after that start to 2023, which shook us to our core, it reminded me that this idea of pursuing things that are just noise, and not focusing on what matters is not the way that I'm going to live my life. I'd made that decision a few years prior, but this was a reminder of what really, really matters in this life. Because when you lose someone, especially as quickly as we did, it highlights the fragility of life. It reminds you of what matters because it reminds you of your own mortality. It reminds you of how short life can be. I remember I went on national television in Barbados to promote my children's books, Doodle Dozen. If you haven't been to doodledozen.com, you can go there and check out my children's books. But when he was in hospital last year at this time, I went on national television to talk about Doodle Dozen. And I remember my husband telling him in one of our chats, because by that point we were talking to him multiple times a day while he was in hospital. And this is while he was still communicative, because eventually he lost, the ability to communicate and had to be sedated and all of that. And so before that happened, my husband shared with him that I was on national television on Good Morning Barbados, promoting Doodle Dozen and talking about Doodle Dozen. And he was so proud. He was one of the first people to have bought one of my Doodle Dozen books. And he didn't need to. He just did that because he believed in supporting each other. He believed in us really supporting each other. He's always been such a big supporter of everything I did. He was a huge fan of me, pursuing my PhD, and was always rooting for me on that journey. And the fact that I was able to complete that journey just a few months after losing him was, that was really hard. When my husband and I talk about this all the time. We're like, he would have been so happy to have seen you finish your PhD. And he never got to see that, never got to experience that and share in that joy and celebration with us. So yeah, that was the huge lesson, the first hard lesson from 2023, because it reminded me of the fragility of life. Never, ever take a moment for granted, because you don't know from one moment to the next if you're even going to be here. The second hard lesson for me from 2023, it was having what I now call a choice experience. I used to refer to this as a quit encounter, where, you've walked away from something. But I've changed my perspective on that, and now I call it a choice experience, because at the end of the day, we have choice. It's easy to forget that with all of life happening. It feels like, things are just happening to you. But sometimes things happen for you because they enlighten you, they show you, they reveal things to you. Experiences reveal things, and it allows us to make choices. And so I call this a choice experience rather than a quit encounter, which is what I used to call it. I may still say it like that sometimes, but I'm trying to shift my perspective now to see it as a choice experience. And so without boring you with all of the details, I will just say that we could always talk about that more inside of Scholarly Mamas, but I would just say for the purpose of this episode that I made that choice, and it felt really good to make that choice for myself, for my family, for my kids, and to do what was best for us at the time. And looking back at it now, I am so glad I did that. I'm so proud of myself for being able to just make that decision for myself. And yeah, I will forever be grateful for the opportunity and the ability to choose and to make decisions that are right for me and to advocate for myself, basically. It was a huge career decision, but I think it was the right one. And looking back now and, having the support of my husband made it so much easier for me to be able to make a decision like that. But yeah, looking back at it now, I think it was the right one, because now amazing opportunities have flowed in my direction since that decision. So I'm just really, really pleased and really grateful. And so by having that choice experience, it was hard, it was scary. There's lots of unknowns and lots of uncertainty surrounding that. But it allowed me to really focus on my boys and my family over the summer holiday while preparing for my Viva. When I look back on it, I think, if I hadn't had that choice experience, if I hadn't been able to be bold enough to make certain decisions, I know for sure that certain opportunities would not have opened for me. And the amazing opportunities that I have coming up are possible because of that choice experience. So all I have is gratitude and thanks and praise for all of these things that we go through as scholarly mamas, because they help us to realign ourselves in the direction that we need to be going and not get distracted by opportunities that are not really meant for us, really. So being able to recognize when something is actually an opportunity and when you need to make a choice to go in a different direction. And so, yeah, I am grateful for that hard lesson. I'm grateful that I was able to make that choice, have that choice experience, because it allowed me to really focus on what mattered to me. It allowed me to really focus on my family, my boys, and also my Viva. So the other thing that I found difficult from 2023, and I know this is going to sound a little bit strange because yes, I am so incredibly grateful to be at the end of my PhD journey and to, reach the finish line with that. In terms of graduation, I was actually meant to attend my graduation in January, but I've decided to defer my graduation until July in 2024 because it's just a better time. The kids will be on holiday. It's not going to be cold. I can, have a nice warm summer graduation. And so I am not going to be attending my graduation in January as planned. I've put that off, but delayed is not denied. Remember, delayed is not denied. So I am quite happy to put that off and to really fully immerse myself in the experience when it comes in July. Plus, it's just a formality anyway, because I've already got my degree certificate. It's just a formality to actually attend the graduation ceremony. But here is the hard lesson for me. Now, as much as I was happy to finish my PhD, as much as I was grateful to be at the end of the journey, now in these months after my PhD, I have really struggled with being done. I've really, for lack of a better word, breaking up with the PhD was hard to do. It felt like this huge achievement on one hand, but then it felt so insignificant as well. I mean, it's hard to explain that feeling, that paradox, but it did feel like, oh my goodness, I am no longer connected to something that has been a part of my journey for so many years. And so that was hard. And how I have been kind of coping with that and managing that is to just, reflect on all of the good times and the hard times, but reflecting on the joy that I experienced when I finished. So that, becoming Dr. Michelle Gibbs and really just making that contribution to the body of knowledge in my area, that really kind of grounded me in the purpose of what I was doing and reminded me of why I did my PhD and what it taught me, all the things it taught me. So breaking up with the PhD was hard, and not having it in my life anymore felt a bit strange. So this is actually the first Christmas without me having to think about my PhD in almost a decade. That is so wild when I think about it. When I think about that and put it into perspective, it's incredible. And so I'm just going to savor these moments, really enjoy this part of the journey, really celebrate what I've achieved. And just look forward into 2024 and all the exciting things that will come from that. Just really looking forward to all the exciting things to come. So those have been my huge wins and hard lessons from 2023 that have changed my life forever. I will never be 40 years old again. This is the only year I will get to be 40. I will never do another PhD. I absolutely promise. Someone asked me recently if I plan to do another degree, and I thought, what in the world? I have done 5 degrees. I'm done. No more degrees for me. But yeah, I will never have that experience again. Being able to launch my podcast and step out of my comfort zone, sign my first coaching client, being able to create wonderful memories with my family, having a solo trip to America, the time I spent with my mum, these are things that you never know if you ever get to experience again. And so I'm so grateful, so full of gratitude for all of those huge wins. And the hard lessons, losing our dear brother, having the choice experience, having all the unknowns and uncertainty, and, mourning the end of my PhD. Those are experiences that have been hard, but they've also taught me so many incredible lessons that I can take forward into everything that is to come in 2024. So as I wrap up this episode, I just wanted to thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the episode. And as requested, please do share this episode with another scholarly mama so that they too can benefit from all the things we talk about here. And if you have any recommendations for guests that you'd love me to have on the podcast next year, please do pop me a DM on Instagram. You can find me at Mrs. Mummy PhD and let me know if there's anyone that you'd love me to approach to be on the podcast. So until next time, Mama, I'm sending you lots of love and lots of gratitude. Take care for now. Bye bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Mrs. Mummy PhD podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you did and you want in on this movement, why not head over to mrsmummyphd.com. You can join the waitlist for our exclusive community of smart, purposeful, scholarly mamas. We'd love to see you on the inside. Remember, Mama, these are our journeys of becoming.